Hey guys, welcome back to RPO Restorations. Standing here over a table full of parts, which can only mean one thing. It's time to start wrenching. So stay tuned for part 2 of Project 1500, where we start finally fixing up my 1993 full-size K1500 Chevy Blazer. Today we're going to work on fixing that steering box. Hopefully the truck will go where I point it. We're going to diagnose some anti-lock brake problems, and we might even get around to fixing that four-wheel drive. So stay tuned, let's get started. Okay guys, so this job is pretty straightforward. All we're going to be doing is removing our old steering box, which is located right down here. We're going to replace these old steering lines. And hopefully, once that is finished, we'll get rid of this loose play in the box, and the truck will go where we want it to go. So the first step is we're going to drain all the fluid out of our power steering pump right here. All right, so I got a container to put our old fluid in. We'll take the cap off of the power steering pump. Put that aside. I just like to use the turkey baster. No need to get too fancy. I'm just going to suck out all that old power steering fluid. All right, now once I've got that power steering reservoir drained, I'm just going to hit these nuts on the lines with a little bit of penetrating oil. Then use an 18mm wrench to crack them open. Now I've already moved my container down to the floor, lesson learned, because it seems no matter how hard you try to drain the reservoir, you're still going to wind up with power steering fluid on your garage floor. It came right off. Alright, so I just took the low pressure line out off camera. Tried to have it on camera, but it helps if you hit the record button first. But there's still a lot of fluid left in that line, so make sure you have a container under there you can drain it into. Now, we'll just clean that up a little bit. Find the right size flathead. I can get this clamp off. All right, so I tried for a couple minutes to get that high pressure line off the back of that pump, and it looks like there's just no way to get a wrench back there to do it. So I'm gonna have to take the shroud off, take our belt off, take this pump out real quick. All right, so I was about to start pulling the pulley off to take the power steering pump out when it kind of hit me. With the belt out of the way, if I move the steering shaft up, it should give me enough room to get a wrench in there and crack that line. So let's see what happens. I think I got it. Yep, we got it. And it's out. Perfect. Yeah, that O-ring's seen better days too. All right, next we'll climb underneath and get rid of that pitman arm. All right, now that we've got our joint there at the pitman arm and the center link separated, now all that's left is to remove the steering box itself. I'm slowly getting the main steering box mounting bolt out. And if you've ever seen a video where they take an original truck and just start cranking it out, they're lying to you, because these things are probably torqued in, I can't even tell you how tight they are, but I am putting all my weight into this and pulling and using a second wrench as leverage, and it's just budging now. And I sprayed it with a lot of penetrating fluid too. So don't believe everything you see on YouTube, because this is awful. They booby trap this thing with sharp corners all around it. So you can't even get your hand in there. Just spin it out. That was a pain. I got 2 more to go. All right, now we have 2 more bolts that we can access from inside the wheel well. A lot easier than getting those other 2 out. That's much better. All right, now we got the bolts out. All we gotta do is work this steering box out. All right, so here it is. We finally got our steering box out. Managed to wrestle it around those brake lines, some of which will be getting replaced shortly. All right, so we got our box out, we got our lines disconnected, we got our system drained. It's getting late, so I think I'm gonna call it a night. I'm gonna go upstairs, take a little break, head to work, and then when I come back tomorrow, we're gonna finish knocking this job out and handle a few other things, because the hard part's over. All right, we're back. Got a fresh haircut. Still wearing the same sweatshirt though, because I don't care if I get power steering fluid all over it. All right, guys, we got the old gear out, got the new one laying here on the floor, along with a pitman arm already attached. So let's put it back in the truck, get those lines hooked up, fill the system back up, and get back on the road. Get in there. All right, we got one bolt in. He's ready to go. Alright, it took a lot of off-camera wrestling and cursing and adjusting and readjusting and yelling at bolts, but I finally got the steering box in. About to torque the bolts down. Spec is 100 foot-pounds. Got the pitman arm in to the center link. Still have to put the castle nut down, torque that down and grease it, but I'll take care of that in a minute. But yeah, if you're doing this without a lift and by yourself, it's going to take a lot of wrestling and cursing and yelling. So this is just something I do. First, I'll torque the castle nut about 15% less to seat the joint. Then I'll back it off until it's loose. Then I'll retorque it down to spec, which in our case is 52 foot-pounds. Now to take these plugs out of the pump and reinstall our power steering lines. Just take a little bit of power steering fluid, lubricate our O-rings before we put them back inside. Do the high pressure side first, only because that's the one that's most buried and hardest to get to. So we'll try and knock that out of the way first. There is a torque spec for these, but I have no way of checking that, so good and tight it is. Alright, so I kind of hit a little bit of a roadblock here. Let me take a walk over, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So, thought it would be really easy just to hook the high pressure line up to the back of the pump here. I've tried about 50 times. I can't do it with the pump on the truck. It's just too much. It's too much of a bad angle. You have to reach back here behind the pipe for the low pressure side. I can't get the threads to line up. So off camera real quick, I pulled the pulley off the power steering pump, took the 3 front mounting bolts off, and now I'm going to remove that, hopefully hook the lines back up, get this project moving. I've wasted too much time so far. It worked. Get the hose out of the way. And there's our problem. Stop dripping. Problem was getting this hose to catch this. I think what we're going to do is disconnect this line from the gearbox, connect it here on top of the truck, make it nice and easy. Then put the steering pump back, reconnect the high pressure line to the box. Looking good. So let this be a lesson. If you're replacing anything that involves taking this high pressure line off, take the pump out, save yourself some trouble. I probably wasted a half an hour trying to get this line back in. I should have just removed the pump in the first place. Back in you go. Okay, the power steering pump mounting bolts should be torqued to 37 foot-pounds. We're going to do that so I can at least torque something to spec in this job. Done. Alright, now before we do that low pressure hose, actually we'll do a little test fit. And then hook that steering shaft back up as well. There we go. He will get torqued down to 22 foot-pounds. There we go. Our new return hose. Get it in there, work it in. Take our line wrench, tighten it down. Looks good. We'll get our pulley back on. Alright, so we got the pulley back on. I don't think it's on enough, but I'm going to worry about that later. Got our belt back on, nice and tight. We just filled the power steering pump up, about a pint of fluid. The manual says to let it sit for about 2 minutes, then recheck it, fill it up again. So we're going to let it sit, see what happens. All right, so we're going to check our level again. Looks like we're good. We're going to start the motor. Let it idle for about 30 or 40 seconds. Then check the level again. Next, we have to raise the front of the car, and we'll slowly turn the wheel from stop to stop, checking it every few times and adding fluid as necessary. That's basically it. Turn it side to side a couple times, all the way to the right. Don't stop in any one position, all the way to the right, then all the way to the left, all the way to the right again, all the way to the left. Check your level every couple times. Once you're finished, lower the truck. Do it again on the ground. Keep checking your level, making sure it's right at that hot or cold full mark, wherever you're at. Then you're done. The system is bled. And since we already have the truck up in the air, it's time to address that pesky little problem with buying a four-wheel drive truck. It doesn't have four-wheel drive. So the transfer case in this truck is electronically controlled. One of the first failure points that you want to check is this unit right here. Control solenoid. These have a tendency to go. I don't know if mine's gone. I'm not going to test it because it looks like it's 30 years old anyway. So we're just going ahead, slide under there and replace it. Here we are under the truck. Before anybody asks, yes, I do have jack stands. Just leaving this here as a little bit of extra support. All right. So here's our actuator right here on the front axle. Now, this is one of the few times you will see me use a non-automotive tool, but find a pipe wrench is just so much easier. You can just get it in there, wedge it inside, and use it to knock the bolt or the actuator loose. Just give it a good couple of taps. There we go. There we go. Finally. Out with the old, in with the new. I applied some dielectric grease to the connector because it will be exposed to the elements down here. Also, the factory service manual calls for thread sealant on the threads, so we've applied that. Just have to do it without slicing my hand on this rusty metal. Alright guys, while we wait for that thread sealant to dry, I think it's time to figure out what's going on with our anti-lock braking system. I don't like having any warning lights on when I'm driving, and that warning light's been on the entire time. So I'm going to show you a quick, easy way to diagnose it. Hopefully we'll be able to figure out what's going on with it. We're going to hop inside the truck with our usual paper clip and see what's going on. Alright, so here we are inside the truck. Many of you guys who have been around early GM computer command control systems or the OBD1 system know that by grounding out one of the terminals on the ALDL connector on your dashboard, you can read your engine trouble codes by watching the check engine light flash. But did you know you can also do that with an early GM anti-lock braking system? All you have to do is take your A terminal, which is your ground, put a paper clip or a piece of wire in that, and put the other end in the H terminal, and I'll show a picture of that on the screen now. And as you ground it out, your ABS light will begin to flash whichever trouble codes are stored in the system. So right now I have a piece for my Thexton computer command control set instead of a paper clip. I actually wanted to use a paper clip but couldn't find one. So we're going to ground out the H terminal on our ALDL connector located underneath the dashboard here and see what's going on with the system. Let's take a look. There's our instrument cluster with our anti-lock brake light. Let's ground out the terminal and see what happens. So we're getting the first number was a number 6, the second was a number 7. We'll flash each code 3 times, just like an OBD1 system will. 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. Code 51. Code 52. And a code 81. All right, so obviously we have a lot going on with this anti-lock braking system. We're going to have to do a little research, figure out what these codes mean. So I think this might be a good time to end part 2 of our series. I got a lot of reading up to do on these early GM ABS systems, figure out what's going on with that, getting multiple codes. So I'm going to have to sort that out. Maybe order some parts, who knows. But before we conclude, just like to ask you, if you like what you saw and you'd like to follow along with the series, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I also have a couple videos that'll be coming out before part 3. I'm going to run through the GM Tech 1A scan tool and show you guys a little bit of that. And we're also going to do a little more in-depth diagnosis of early General Motors ABS systems. So if that's something that may interest you, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you like what you saw in the video, please hit the like button. Thank you guys. I'll see you on the next one. Alright, just wanted to shoot a quick video before we end this one. I'm trying out the new steering box, and I gotta say, this car is a lot tighter. It actually goes where you point the steering wheel. You may notice the wheel isn't straight when I'm moving straight. That's okay. That's going to be adjusted when we get an alignment done. My feeling is that the previous owner replaced a lot of the front end suspension components. He had an alignment done when the steering box was off and worn anyway. So if this ever happens to you and you replace the steering gear and your steering wheel isn't pointing straight, even though the wheels are pointing straight, don't go crazy and start taking your wheel off and trying to change that, because you won't be able to anyway. They're all notched. But just get a front end alignment done. They can adjust that out of it. I'm not going to do that right now because I really don't care at this point, and I know that the wheels are true, the wheels are straight. I'm not getting any unusual tire wear or anything like that. And the other thing I wanted to test is the 4-wheel drive. And look at that. We have 4-wheel drive. Turn it off. Notice the lights for the front half of the car are off. I'll pull the lever back, and probably going to take a second, and they turn on. So we're good. We got 4-wheel drive. I'm going to make it right here and see if I can feel these wheels binding at all. And I can when I cut the wheel real hard, real fast. So I know we're good. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.